Democratic Messaging. What worked in 2020?
I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., do solemnly swear.
What didn't work in 2024?
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
And how we win moving forward. Your calls and messaging expert Billy Ray.
You know, the old saying about the Democrats is, when it comes to messaging, Democrats could fuck up a peanut butter sandwich.
Right here, right now, on The Dangerous Ones.
The shots been fired, but the war ain't won. These white boys with money better learn how to run. The wall hits your back, the blood's on your tongue. You and me, baby, with a dangerous one.
Welcome to The Dangerous Ones. I'm your host, Jim Drastic of 11 Films. And as always, I'm joined by Tiffany Drastic of 11 Films and Executive Director of Demcast USA, Nick Knutson.
Hey.
Democratic messaging is something that everyone has an opinion on, so we're taking your calls to the People's Hotline on the subject. And later, you do not want to miss our interview with Oscar-nominated writer and Democratic messaging expert, Billy Ray. It is truly eye-opening, and he does not pull any punches.
No, it's a great interview.
Fantastic, yeah. If you're watching this show on YouTube, please hit like and subscribe and make a comment. It helps us go up the robotic algorithm. If you're listening to the show, please give us a 5-star review. It would sure mean a lot to us. And if you would like to support the show, you can do so by going to tealandorangereport.com and becoming a paid subscriber to our Substack. It would sure mean a lot.
Sure would.
So here we are, guys. Wow. It feels like it's been a while.
I know.
Like in this,
I know.
So we had Wyden on, which was fantastic. Got a great response.
Yeah.
And this week, Billy Ray. Man, that is some sobering.
He does not fuck around.
Yeah. I can't wait for all of you to see this.
Yeah, stay tuned, guys. This is a good, very interesting conversation.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah.
But Democratic messaging, we put a call out for people to let us know what they think, what went right and what went wrong.
Is there a problem?
Turns out there might be. But let's get right to it. We've got time for a few calls and then we'll get to Billy Ray. The people wanted to chime in. Let's hear what they have to say about what worked, what did not work, and how we win moving forward.
Okay. This is Anonymous from Oregon. And she's kind of pointing out what we've all known, that Democrats weren't really honest.
Yes, I have been a Oregon resident most all of my life. I'm from Yamhill County. And you want to know why the Democratic message did not resonate this time, in my opinion, is they weren't honest. Flat out. They were not honest with the fact that Joe Biden was elderly, and they needed to rectify that immediately. I indicated that to my family members. We had faith in the Democratic leaders that they would recognize this and be honest about it. And that's where they failed. I hope this helps.
Well, I think who can argue with that?
Nick? It's interesting that she brings that up because Billy Ray talks about that in the interview. In a universe where Trump does not win, it's because probably Biden does what he said he was originally going to do and doesn't run for a second term. As soon as the midterms are over, he's like, you guys have at it. The new generation of leadership needs to come forward. But there was some stubbornness on his part and the people around him just pretending.
They weren't honest with him.
With him.
I don't know if they were honest with themselves.
Yeah.
I think they really truly thought they were doing the best move at the time, but they were not listening to us out here saying that's not really true.
And everybody we all have eyeballs.
Yeah.
And that's what was really hard about that is because I love Joe Biden.
I love Joe.
Like he's Uncle Joe, man, and he had a good presidency. But we could see it.
Yeah.
Like he was getting old, man. He was getting old.
Yeah.
But, we read reports after the election. I read articles where the inner staff knew.
Yeah.
They saw it. They saw him stumbling. They tried to hide it.
Yeah.
They tried to hide it. Democrats, what are you doing?
But I'm not defending them, but who has ever beat Trump?
Right.
One guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know,
that's a good point.
And I understand that they wanted to hang on as long as they could, and that's why we missed our opportunity to primary Kamala, which I think is another fatal error.
And Billy talks about that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because we didn't, because she was installed, did not help this patina we have of like a totalitarian government, you know, or this thing that the party has about, we know what's best for you and you're going to sit down and take it, you know?
Yeah.
It's
But
not,
I don't, I mean, ultimately, I don't think her coronation or installation or whatever as the nominee was what
No.
like made us lose that election. It was the decision. I mean,
it's like death by 1,000 cuts, right? It's like 100 things.
If anybody was going to be able to beat Trump, it was going to have to start in December of 2022 or January of 2023, where Joe Biden says, "I'm out."
Yeah.
And there's like a process.
Yeah.
You know.
Fantastic call.
Yeah, great call.
Yeah.
Yep.
This next one is Charlene from Salt Lake City, and she thinks the party is a little bit out of touch with voters.
Hi, my name is Charlene Owens, and I'm from Salt Lake City, Utah, and I saw the notice about what the Democrats' messaging might have gotten wrong in 2024. I think a big problem with it was, yes, the economy was doing well, the stock market was up in 2024, inflation was coming down, everything, the economy was doing terrific for some. And they're not to take anything away from that, but the average person out there who heard these messages coming from our politicians that the economy is so great, everything's wonderful, well, these people were at home going, well, wait a minute, my interest on my credit card is 30%. I can't buy a car because there's 12% interest on that. I can't buy a home because interest rates are over 7%. All of those kinds of things are what everyday Americans had to deal with. And so when they heard Democratic candidates talking about, we have the best post-COVID economy in the world, which we did, it wasn't trickling down, so to speak, to the average person. So they felt like Democrats didn't understand them and that Democrats were out of touch with what was important to them. And I feel like that went a long way towards this, just a lot of people just checking out and not voting. Anyway, just my 2 cents. Thanks.
Thank you, Charlene from Salt Lake City. Nick?
Tone deaf.
Yeah.
I mean, 100%.
Completely.
She is absolutely right. And I was very concerned about this throughout the election cycle, being involved in, and connected to the party apparatus that was trying to push out messaging that was supportive of the Biden administration's efforts, which were great.
And accomplished a lot of
big things.
But even at the height of that, even you felt it.
I felt it because I feel it as an American. I'm a dad of two kids. They have 2 households. The bills keep piling up. Rent keeps getting higher. College seems completely unaffordable. Like I'm living it too. And so the top-down messaging of the economy's great, guys. Just felt tone deaf. At best.
At best.
And okay, it's true, but I'm not feeling it at home when I have to feed 2 extra mouths, and that and now I can't even do that. Like, not to mention, with all this inflation is shrinkflation, right? So you go to the store as a mom, you go to Costco, you think you get
oh my God,
what you've been getting, and you get home and you're like, what the fuck is this? This is not enough to feed my family.
Yeah.
The other, this is what I was going to say earlier, is that unfortunately Americans, I think, generally are pretty impatient. Mm-hmm. And, here he launched the CHIPS Act and all these different things, and those things takes time. And God bless the Biden administration. They tried to go out and tell people
they did.
It's going to take some time. Factories need to be built. Things need to happen. It's going to take a while. And, but that's but unfortunately, too bad.
Yeah.
Americans are impatient. What are you doing for me right now?
Yeah.
And
I mean, totally agree. Like, I have some empathy. They're up against a messaging apparatus on the right that is going to pummel them 24/7, 365. And they, of course, need to trumpet their wins.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like,
yeah,
it would be political malpractice not to trumpet your wins.
Yeah.
But there was ironically, because Joe Biden is like probably the most empathetic human, like
in politics on earth,
to be president ever, right? There was a lack of empathy in the messaging and in the conversation. Like, it really needed to be more of like, we know this isn't good enough yet.
Yeah.
We're trying, and here's the things that we're doing, but we know that like eggs are too expensive and milk is too expensive, and we're doing better than all these other countries post-COVID, but that's not good enough.
Right.
And and here's the things that, so just like more coming at it from a perspective of empathy rather than like trying to force feed people like good news that they're not prepared to hear.
And I don't think leading with the entire world's on fire, but we only have a dumpster on fire over here is the best strategy at all. And it did not translate to anybody out here.
Yeah. And finally, I would just say also, yes, you should trumpet your wins, but I don't even think they did a good job of that.
Yeah.
Because
they didn't really explain like what the CHIPS Act is going to mean to me or my neighborhood or,
Yeah, I thought it was just pretty lame. And like you were just saying before we got on air is you don't have a lot of faith moving forward about in who the Democrats are and what they're able to message.
I do not. I think that at this moment, especially now, especially in Trump 2.0, where, it's hell in a handbasket.
Yeah.
It's the revolution back to an America that is empathetic and prosperous for the vast majority of us is going to come from the people, and it's not like the RNC has led the right wing like messaging dominance.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
For the last 45 years.
Right.
Right. It's the whole apparatus. It's they have a media ecosystem. They have all the think tanks who, getting pumped with billions and billions of dollars. Like they have, it's not coming from the RNC.
Yeah.
So the idea that like we're going to get saved by a few politicians in Washington who have literally no platform anymore because nobody pays attention to press releases, nobody watches congressional hearings anymore. Like, it's not going to come there. Nobody's coming to save us.
Right.
And it's definitely not the Democratic Party. We need to eventually we need to mobilize in the streets.
Yeah.
As this gets worse and worse and worse and worse for Americans.
Because it's going to.
And we are going to have to tell the only party that will listen to us, which is the Democratic Party, because they're coming at the problem from the right direction. They're not causing the problem. We're going to have to lead them and tell them how to, like, what positions to take and sort of point them in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Fantastic. One more call and then let's get to the interview.
Yeah. This is Jean, and she's saying, wherever the game is going to be, Dems, you guys need to show up.
Hi, my name is Jean. I am calling in response to your message about what's wrong, and I will give you my reply. I've been asking myself for years, how have so many people's brains been hijacked? I felt that the nefariousness that is so obvious in the Cheeto Man and the MAGA minions to me is not so obvious to the other half of America. Then while watching The Daily Show with Jon Stewart on March 24th, he succinctly described it. Social media, algorithms, brains bathed in MAGA-isms, hijacked. Referenced the army of bro-oligarchs at the inauguration. Their task complete, and they stood nominated to the Diaz as evidence of their success and servitude. I ask, once the DNC has actually figured out the message for democracy, that they get in the game on the same playing field. I'm not promoting social media, but if that is where the game is played, then suit up.
Love
like,
it.
Demanding that they get their fucking shit together.
Suit up.
Yes.
I want a t-shirt. Suit
Right.
up, you know. It was that Gene, right?
That was Gene.
Gene,
Yes.
thank you for the call, Nick.
I don't have anything to say about this.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Seems like it would be Demcast, your territory.
So look, kind of like what I was saying a minute ago about, nobody's coming to save us. Like, yes, the party needs to get more online. There are good messengers who are very online, who are on the left, and there are problems that are bigger than, like, there are not enough Democrats who are getting online. Like, the algorithm is run by the dudes who were standing behind Trump at the inauguration.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's an excellent point.
I mean, like, the
system's rigged.
The system is very rigged, and I would wager that there are a lot of Democrats who have said some really cool stuff, who have posted that shit online, it's been seen by like 12 people because the algorithm squashes it. Nobody's looking for it. Nobody amplifies it. So again, the solution is not, I agree with you, Gene. Like, yes, more. Like welcome to 2025.
Yeah.
Like, get online, guys. All of you. And if you're not capable of communicating in an online space effectively, then you probably shouldn't be a politician in the 2020s.
Right.
Like, to be perfectly honest.
Well, fantastic. You guys stay where you are. Don't change anything. You are about to hear from an expert on this subject. And man, what he has to say is quite sobering and even kind of like shocked me a few times. But he is absolutely somebody everybody should be listening to. And this was recorded a little bit earlier today. Have a listen. Our guest today is an Oscar-nominated screenwriter with credits such as The Hunger Games, Richard Jewell, and Captain Phillips, among others. He's also a gifted director who directed one of our favorite miniseries, The Comey Rule, on Showtime.
So good.
That was based on the book A Higher Loyalty by former FBI Director James Comey, starring Jeff Daniels as Comey and the fabulous Brendan Gleeson as President Trump. He's an expert on democratic messaging, and in 2020, he teamed up with fellow writers Greg Hurwitz and Marshall Herskovitz and others to produce over 150 political ads aimed at helping the Democrats defeat Donald Trump. And as we all know, it worked because Donald Trump was defeated that November. So he is the perfect person to have on the show to speak about democratic messaging. Ladies and gentlemen, Billy Ray. Welcome, Billy.
I'm going to try to live up to that intro. Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Thank you for coming on. We always try to do up the intros real big
sure
in
do.
hopes that they'll come back on at some
Deserved
point.
every second of it.
In full disclosure, during 2020, Tiffany and I, with 11 Films, we were proud to work behind the scenes with you guys just a little bit. We helped turn some knobs.
Found some clips.
You guys wrote them and produced them. We just helped turn some knobs on a few of those ads, and then they would go out to various outlets. So really, the first question is, 2020, the messaging worked. 2024, I don't know who, it didn't work. What happened?
I would go back 2 years earlier to 2018 when the messaging really, really worked. In 2018, the goal was to try to flip the House and therefore save the country. And Democrats with complete message discipline went out and just said healthcare, 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 and gained 40 seats in the House, which literally did save the country. Democrats do not typically message well from the top down. I've done a lot of thinking about this, and I think it's because Republicans generally come into politics from a professional work circumstance. Democrats typically come into politics from an activism background. People who work in a professional hierarchy understand top-down messaging, and they tend to be more loyal messengers. People who come from activism have never worked in that circumstance before, and they don't respond well to top-down messaging. So the Democrats, the old saying about the Democrats is, when it comes to messaging, Democrats could fuck up a peanut butter sandwich. And in 2024, we did. We just dropped $6.7 billion on an election cycle. And if you stop any American in the middle of the street right now and say, what does the Democratic Party stand for? They cannot tell you. And if you pushed really hard, they'd say, well, okay, I know you guys hate Trump. You love abortion, you love trans people, and you love open borders. That's our brand. In terms of inspiring people, it's hardly the new frontier.
Right.
And we need to do better. And doing better is really simple. It's very much within our grasp. We just have to message in a different kind of way.
So that brings me to I had seen you on a podcast with Jill Wine-Banks, and you were talking about the demographic of the party. I didn't think when we got to 2025 that our party would have an identity crisis. I thought it was going to be Republicans and the infighting that was going on. So how do we rebuild that image if we've alienated, like you said, 68% of our base, right, in favor of the 32%, which...
Because you had mentioned something that he had said about Christians.
Yes. Okay. So 68% of our country is Christian. Okay. 88% of the homes in America have a Bible, and the average has 4. In the Democratic platform in 2024, there are mentions of Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism, and Islam. Do you know how many mentions of Christianity there are? Zip.
Yikes.
0.
Okay.
In what business can you say to 68% of your potential customers, fuck off, you don't matter? We are so concerned with the rights of these other 32% that we're going to treat you like you're the problem. We're going to treat every gun owner like he's a school shooter. Who does that?
Yeah.
Nobody needs. There were 15 million Americans who had voted for Joe Biden and didn't vote for Kamala Harris. 15 million.
Wow.
As anybody who's ever run a business can tell you, getting customers is hard and losing customers is unforgivable. We just lost 15 million of them.
Yeah.
Of course heads are going to roll. Of course we're going to have to do things differently. Every single time Donald Trump ran for president, his numbers went up.
Yeah.
We just lost the popular vote to this guy. We lost all 7 swing states to this guy. Yes, we have to rethink what we're doing. But okay, so your question is fair. How do we do it?
And one of the things that I was thinking about is during the 2020 election cycle, and for the folks that don't know, during 2020, obviously everybody was COVID, we're locked at home. On the messaging standpoint, so Twitter is blowing up because everybody's home and whatnot. There's groups like obviously 11 Films, and then Midas Touch came out. There was the Lincoln Project. There's Don Winslow Films. There's Really American. There's RVAT. There's all these different groups, and it was just a movement of messaging that just was undeniable. And one of the ads, I'll get to my point here, but one of the ads that we did during 2020 was called Shining City on a Hill, which used Reagan's words. And I was thinking about it this morning when I was writing some notes, and it was like, also during 2020, the messaging wasn't just to, it was obviously to help Democrats, but it was also not to put down every single Republican that ever walked in the room. And that's what that video was so good at. It was also nominated for a Webby Award and whatnot.
Let us resolve, they will say of our day and of our generation, that we did keep faith with our God, that we did act worthy of ourselves, that we did protect and pass on lovingly that shining city on a hill.
Can you speak on that a little bit? I mean, sure. Don Winslow Films also did that too, a lot of like trying to wake Republicans up without necessarily talking shit about them.
Okay, so first of all, that ad, the Shining City on a Hill ad, was the brainchild of Greg Hurwitz and Marshall Herskovitz, and it's a brilliant ad. It's a perfect ad, and it had a huge impact, as it should have. There were 6.2 million Americans who had voted for Obama, and in 2016 voted for Trump. 6.2 million flip voters. 1.3 million of them in 2016 came from 3 states: Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, which is why the blue wall crumbled. But that's a lot of people in 3 states, 1.3 million. So somebody smarter than I am did a deep dive on those 1.3 million flip voters in those 3 states. And what they discovered was that that voter, that guy who had flipped from Obama to Trump, on average, works 2.5 jobs. He commutes 3 hours a day, and he thinks about politics 4 minutes per week. Per week.
Okay.
Wow. You remember the last time you went 4 minutes without thinking about politics?
No. I was a child.
So you go up to that guy in Scranton, in Lansing, in Eau Claire, in Tucson, okay? He's working 2.5 jobs. He's commuting 3 hours a day. He's thinking about politics 4 minutes per week, okay? I guarantee you he's taking his medication every other day to make 30 pills last 60 days. His kid's school is falling apart. His mom's living in a nursing home if she survived COVID. And America consumes 80% of the opiates in the world. So throw that in too. You go up to that guy and say to him, I don't like your pronouns, and you've got white privilege, you're going to send him screaming into the arms of the nearest Republican. Because in every close race, every close House race in America, the voters will tell you it came down to something really simple. The Republican was an asshole and the Democrat was an elitist, and the asshole never made me feel dumb. Okay? But we, as Democrats, and this is where we lose them, we insist that people celebrate things that they have just learned how to tolerate. And it's not the same thing. You go up to that voter in Lansing and you say gay rights, he'd say, okay, I don't care. I know a gay guy. He works in HR. He's fine. I'm fine. But don't tell me if I don't march in a parade, I'm a homophobe. But we as Democrats say, nope. If you don't come all the way with us, you're a knuckle dragger and we're going to cancel you. And that's where we lose them. They agree with us on minimum wage. They agree with us on abortion. They agree with us on guns. They agree with us on the environment. They agree with us on protecting Social Security and Medicare. They agree with us on everything. But we tell them how to talk, and Republicans don't. And that's one freedom they just will not give up. So, yes, that means we have got to stop insisting that government documents say justice-involved individuals instead of criminals. We've got to stop insisting that people say pregnant person instead of pregnant woman. By the way, if you are a man trapped in a woman's body and you get pregnant and you want to call yourself a pregnant person, great. I'll fight for your right to do so. But I'm not going to tell my neighbor he has to say it. That takes his freedom away. I'm not going to do it. And by the way, no, it doesn't make sense to say to people, you can't say homeless anymore. You have to say unhoused. That's fucking insane. Are you telling me that the homeless guy down the street from me is going to wake up one day and say to himself, you know, when people called me homeless, I really, really suffered some indignity. But now that they're calling me unhoused, I think I'm going to take a shower and get a job. It's just stupid. And it makes us sound ridiculous. We have got to aim to meet people where they are emotionally. You cannot sell joy to people who cannot afford eggs. It's that.
So in a way, Billy, we're almost saying we need to create democratic messaging for Democrats, like in the sense of saying, hey, guys, you know, we are supposed to be the party of tolerance and things like that. And clearly we're not doing that when we say, well, if you don't say it this way, you're canceled. If you don't say, because let's be honest, and it's such a fucking thing, because it's like, I completely agree with the entire Me Too movement and all these other things, but now so many things have been lumped in. It's like you said, if you don't immediately understand right off the bat, you're canceled. And that is, Barack Obama warned us about that.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like almost we need to have a little conversation with our fellow Democrats. I'm like, hey, let's relax.
Well, it's true.
Yeah.
We've become really good at dividing. even to ourselves. So what do we do about that, Billy? How do we wrap our arms around Republicans who maybe feel like they don't have a party, they're not welcome here, and around our own people who feel alienated? Because I do too, especially in Democratic messaging. It's a lot of gatekeeping. It's a lot of, you have to do and say what we tell you to say and do. And so how do we unify?
Okay. First, the thing that people are longing for is community.
Mm-hmm.
You see it in poll after poll. They've been told for 9 years that they have to hate their neighbors over politics, and they're exhausted. They're over it. Remember, they're thinking about politics 4 minutes per week. You're not going to get them with an argument about the debt ceiling or the filibuster. They don't give a shit. They're just trying to get through the day. Okay? Step one is to talk to them from a position of humility. The absence of humility shown by my party has been staggering since November 5th. We got our asses kicked.
Yeah.
Don't let anybody tell you that it was close. It was not close. We lost the popular vote to a guy with 34 felonies and 2 impeachments. No, we didn't come close. We got worked. And it's because we didn't allow people into our tent. We gave them the Heisman instead. We said to them, oh, wait a minute. You disagree with us on guns? That's it. You're a knuckle dragger. Oh, wait a minute. You disagree with us on abortion? Fuck off. You're a fascist. It went on and on and on. When the fact is that what people really want is they want to get back to a time when they were thinking about bake sales and Little League and looking after each other's kids. They want to know that if they're on the side of the road with a flat tire, that a neighbor is going to pull over without first checking to see if their bumper stickers match yours. People just want community. They want to get their neighbors back. But if you want to get your neighbors back, you got to have your neighbors back. You have to lower your voice a little bit, lower your arms a little bit, open your ears and hear what they have to say. People fundamentally do not want to be angry at each other about politics. That's a fire that Donald Trump started, but we're the only people getting burned by it. And we have to wake up.
Yeah, that's and it's like, I feel like you're not, I knew that, but I don't, how do we express our anger at what happened? I mean, like, did you feel like we were going to lose? Did you feel like we had it in the bag? Because I was at the DNC, all that energy, all of that, I thought we were going to win, everybody. I thought it was going to be baseball and potato salad again.
I was knocking on doors in Pittsburgh.
Thank you.
And feeling very, very good about the people that I was talking to. And the best pollster in Pennsylvania told me personally, we're going to win Wisconsin by 120,000, Michigan by 140,000, and Pennsylvania by 200,000. It's done. He said, I think we're going to lose Nevada, but we've got the blue wall. I flew home, fat, dumb, and happy, and said to everyone, got it. We're good.
Right.
And the second I saw the first return come in, I said, oh, here we go. We're done. It's over. Yes, I was very, very surprised. But that said, there were mistakes made that were obvious. Go on Joe Rogan. Go on Joe Rogan. 47 million people will be watching, not 800,000 like when you went on Brett Baer. There were certain things that we did that did not project humility. They projected arrogance. They projected a sense of we know better for America, whether America wants it or not. And America doesn't want that. America really appreciates a party that speaks with some humility if you're a Democrat. Okay, so to get back to what you were saying earlier, yes, we need to talk to Democrats about the way they speak. I help about 80 sitting members of the House and Senate with messaging now and then. It's the unpaid half of my day. And what I say to them is, you have to stop messaging as if you're afraid of the 23-year-old Wesleyan grad on your staff. Stop walking around being afraid that someone on your staff is going to tell you you're not woke enough.
Yep.
And if they do, you have to fire them because they don't get it. The votes are in the big middle. And by the way, I say this as the most liberal guy you're going to meet. And I live a woke life, but I will not impose that on anybody else around me. I will not. It is political suicide. It's absurd what we're out there trying to do, right? You cannot talk down to people and then ask for their support at the same time. And say what you will about Donald Trump, he does not talk down to his voters. Okay?
That's true.
That is
Now,
for sure.
the other thing that we need to do is stop talking about Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Full stop.
It doesn't matter now, right?
Yeah.
We have been telling America that he is an asshole for 9 years.
They're like, we know.
And
That's why
his
they're like,
vote total has gone up in 3 consecutive elections. Because here's the bottom line. They know he's an asshole. They like that he's an asshole. They voted for him because he's an asshole. Because the more assholic, I know that's not a real word, but the more assholic he is, the more he irritates us. And that's what they really want to do. Okay? So we got to stop talking about Trump. Everything we say from now on has to come from a place of advocacy for Americans. In other words, if he goes after DEI, let him. And our response should be, how does this lower the price of eggs? How does this make it easier for you to buy a home? If he goes after transgender people, let him. You cannot help transgender people by losing elections. He goes after them. He decides to kick them out of the military. You say, how does this make us safer? How does this lower the price of eggs? How does this make it easier for you to afford a home? Whatever he says, you come from a position of advocacy. For example, in just the last week, he is blowing out rural housing programs. He's getting rid of all the staff. All the disaster dollars are now at risk. Take a look at what's happening in Montana, which is curiously this weird bellwether for the rest of the country. He's cutting the Forestry Service. That has a huge impact in Montana. He's cutting veteran services. Montana has the highest concentration of veterans of any state in the union. 9% of the population of Montana are vets. They're getting hammered up there. He's closing Social Security offices in Kalispell and Missoula, which is going to impact elderly citizens, of course, disproportionately. And guess what? People in Montana are furious. They're getting mad at the Republicans for the first time ever. And you will see that will cross down to the Dakotas, to Kansas, to Nebraska. There's going to be a movement out there because MAGA is starting to wake up and realize, oh shit, we thought we were just going to be fucking over black people. We didn't mean us.
right.
That's the shock that they are now all experiencing. Stop talking about him. They'll start talking about him. You just start talking about the voters that you're there to protect. That's the mantra.
Boy.
So the pain level almost it just has to start touching people's lives. You know, we always talk about, is it the stories of your neighbor that'll help wake people up?
Yeah. And so like on this show, one of the things we do, Billy, is we have the what we call the People's Hotline. People call and leave us messages about how they're being impacted by Trump's policies. Because our belief is the best way to fight forward right now, the best thing we can do on this podcast, to truly help, is to amplify stories of people who are personally being impacted. Because by doing that, we're hoping that people who originally voted for Trump or voted for Trump the second time will hear those stories and hear more and more and more and more of those stories about how their neighbor is being negatively impacted, or maybe they're a family member. And then pretty soon, after a while, it's not this thing that's far off. It's this thing that I don't want Bill, the guy I mow the lawn next to every Sunday, to be hurt by, like, well, that doesn't sound good. And eventually, maybe that will slowly start to change the minds of some of these folks. And I was kind of curious to get your take on that approach.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely the right approach, because here's the thing about Bill mowing the lawn next to you. He's not going to be mowing the lawn next to you pretty soon. He's going to lose his fucking house.
Jesus.
Okay? That's the reality. You think the economy is going to get better? Can you point out a time in the last 40 years where the economy has gotten better under a Republican president? It never does.
Nope.
The deficits always explode. The debt gets bigger and services get cut off. And then Democratic presidents come in and they right the ship. And then Republicans can come in and message better than we do. And the economy goes in the tank again. And that's what's coming. Do you think the price of eggs is going down?
No.
Do you think the price of gasoline is going down? Do you think tariffs are going to make it easier for people to buy things? Of course not. It's just a giant tax on everything. And on top of it, we are cutting social services, right? Necessary government services. And when you slash that many federal jobs at one time, and we are talking about like a machete going through the government, which is not to say that the government didn't have some fat, but when you blindly just blow out millions of jobs, you know that vets are 30% of our government workforce?
Yeah.
30%. You're going to hurt vets that deeply? Do you think America's going to stand for that? Do you think America's going to put up with it? Here's the thing. I saw a poll recently that was kind of stunning. Americans were asked, what percentage of this country do you think is transgender? And Americans said 21%.
Oh, wow.
The answer is less.
Right.
They were asked, what percentage do you think are Jewish? Americans said 30%. The answer is less than 2. They were asked, what percentage do you think is atheist? Again, they said 30%. The answer is less than 3. They were asked, what percentage of our country do you think is black? They said 46%. The answer is 12. And on down the line. They were asked, what percentage do you think makes over 250 grand a year? And they said 44%. And the answer is less than 1. Americans have no idea what country they're living in. And the result is that white male Christians now believe they're a minority. And they have backed up into tribal corners and come out swinging, which is, of course, how you explain the election of Trump, right? What we need to make sure that we are communicating to people is that this is still an overwhelmingly white, heterosexual, Christian country, okay? And that they don't need to fight so hard to establish their place in the hierarchy. Their place in the hierarchy is super safe. And they need to understand that. There is not some Mexican criminal transgender person who is trying to sneak over the border and destroy their country.
Right.
That's not happening. It's never happened. It's never going to happen. We need to calm everyone down. And the way we do that as Democrats is by inviting those people back into our community. And the sell is, okay, you voted for Trump. We're not going to hammer you about that. We're just asking you, take a look at the price of eggs. Take a look at the affordability of homes. Take a look at the quality of schools. Take a look at what's happening to the environment. Take a look at your neighbor. Take a look at the Social Security check. Take a look at Medicare going away. Take a look at what's happening to vets. Is that what you voted for? Because I think what's going on, I can't prove it, but I think, it seems to me that the government, in the name of Elon Musk, is trying to wipe out all government services, place all those people with AI, and then Musk will own the AI.
Yeah.
This is all about money. This is not about making our country better. It's not about making our country more efficient. It's just profit. And we have put it in the hands of people who don't fundamentally care about Americans. I think Democrats do. I think Democrats believe in investing in people.
You know, you bring up a really good point. During 2020, we, Tiff and I did a lot of work with Don Wenzel Films and the great people over there. And a couple of the ads that we did, they did the ads. We were just turning a lot of the knobs, but it circled around reclaiming the flag, you know what I mean, for Democrats, because there's this whole, like, I'm literally like one of the most patriotic people. And I'm a liberal Democrat, but
when you drive down the street and somebody's got a flag in their yard, you're like, I know who you voted for.
And that's, you know what, and that's true too, right?
Yeah.
So the flag, and so that my point to the Don Wenzel Films thing was they were trying to say, you know, the flag has been hijacked. It's horse shit. We need to take it back. We're just as patriotic, if not more, at this point, than the other guy, you know. So I think that's important as well. Real quick, I want to read something that you had said, Billy Ray, in an interview that I thought was just kind of hit me. This is a quote. I felt more afraid for my country after the election of Donald Trump than I felt after 9/11. The day after 9/11, I knew the country would come together. The day after Donald Trump's election, I knew the country would come apart. Can you speak a little bit about, I mean, the differences are glaring, but the difference between what we had to deal with Trump the first time and obviously the messaging that went towards that and what we are dealing with now. And like, it's a whole fucking different ballgame, in my opinion.
I think it's a very different ballgame, and it's a scarier ballgame. Trump, when he first came into office in 2017, had no idea how to work the levers of government and didn't expect to be elected, and was so arrogant that he didn't think he had to learn. Well, now it's 8 years later, and while Republicans have been smoldering over the election of Biden, Project 2025 was being conceived by people who do understand the levers of power in government and had a very, very specific plan for what to do about it. I mean, most Americans haven't read Project 2025, and Trump pretended he didn't know what it was. And the fact is, I'm sure Donald Trump never read it because it doesn't say his name in it. But people around him have, and they were always planning to do exactly what they're doing right now. Yes, it's true. The flag has been hijacked. I don't doubt the patriotism of Republicans, and I don't doubt the patriotism of MAGA. I really don't. I think they believe in a different America. I think they believe that America is a place that God set aside for white Christian people, and that anything they have to do in defense of that is patriotism. Democrats just believe something different, and I believe independent voters believe something different too. Democrats believe that America is an idea, and that America is actually the best idea that any country has ever been. I mean, if you think about what the history of all countries are, it's always about territory or monarchy. There's always fights over those things. But America was the first country that was ever an idea. We're going to try a different kind of government here. And it became the model for the world. The only country since that's been an idea was Israel, which had a very specific idea to it, born out of the Holocaust. Those are the only two countries I can name that weren't based on territorial battles or monarchy of one kind or another, tribal warfare, etc. Okay. If America is an idea, then the fundamental thing we need to make sure people understand is that democracy is a decision. It's not automatic like gravity or the sun rising in the east. Democracy happens because a country, its people, demand that it happens. If we stop insisting upon democracy, what we get instead is what we have now, authoritarianism. We're watching it happen. And I think if you were to boil down the fundamental differences between one party and the other, it's that Democrats like to govern and Republicans like to rule. And that's what we're seeing. And I don't believe Americans want to be ruled. Donald Trump's numbers with independent voters right now, that number is 28%. 69% of independent voters say they are falling behind on their bills. That's death. That's over. You're done if that's the number. Okay. By the way, 63% of Republicans say they are falling behind on their bills. So that economic wizardry argument is not going to fly. I believe that this administration has about 8 or 9 more months left to keep trying the bullshit that it's trying. Because in 2026, there will be Republican members of the House who have to run for re-election and Republican members of the Senate who have to run for re-election. And the economy will have completely cratered by then. And they're going to have to run away from Trump. And once they do, his political power is finished. And then we have a shot. We have a chance.
God, I hope so.
So relying on the
Jesus
midterms
Christ.
again. Okay.
Yeah. I know.
Well, let me ask you a question. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, please do.
If Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona ran for president today against Donald Trump, do you think Donald Trump would win? Not close. Not close.
No. I mean, no. How do you go against that? I mean, yeah.
America has already figured out that it made a mistake.
Yeah.
All the Democrats have to do now, without amplifying their distaste for Trump, all they have to do now is advocate for the people who are beginning to realize what a mistake we just made collectively. But you do that, again, by being humble and being inclusive and by having patience with people who may disagree with you on an issue or two. Once we demonstrate that, I think we're a juggernaut. If we don't, we're going to lose in 2026 again.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
If you had to, if you could write one magic sentence and the brand is redone and we walk in and we win forever, or we get everybody on our side, the American side, right? Centrist and a little left, a little right. What is the sentence? What is everybody, this is it. This is what we're doing now. This is who we are.
I mean, we're all getting behind.
Yeah.
For me,
yes,
it's faith over fear.
Faith over fear. I love that.
Fear, I do too.
I mean, what drives every Republican ad you've ever seen in your lifetime?
God,
fear.
guns, and country.
Fear.
Yeah.
Right? Fear of chaos. That's in every ad run by every Republican ever. Go back and look at the Willie Horton ad that buried Michael Dukakis in 1988.
Yeah.
It essentially said, if you vote for Michael Dukakis, a black convict on furlough is going to come murder your family. Okay? Democrats are soft on crime, chaos. Then after 9/11, Democrats are soft on terror. Remember that one?
Yep.
Chaos. Now it's Democrats are for open borders. Democrats are for burning cities. Democrats want to defund the police. Democrats don't care if your son becomes your daughter. Chaos, chaos, chaos. Fear, fear, fear. If you give Republicans or conservatives the choice between authoritarianism and what they perceive to be chaos, they'll pick authoritarianism every time.
Right.
They're doing it right in front of us. Okay? So we need to understand that fear. And we need to speak to something that is higher, which to me is faith. Faith in our fellow Americans, faith in democracy, faith in community, faith in America in which Americans pull for other Americans. It's faith over fear. And you can tell that story in a million different ways, but it is ultimately about speaking to the part of Americans that really does just want to think about bake sales and Little League and looking after each other's kids. They want to believe that there is a fundamental contract between government and the governed. And that fundamental contract is government takes care of the really big stuff, right? Infrastructure, defense, COVID, the environment, the economy, etc., so that you're free to live your best life. We build the roads, you get your kids to school on time. And if you wind up working harder than everybody else and getting 2 houses and a boat, good for you. That's America. We're not going to pull you down. We're going to celebrate your success. We're not going to treat you like you're the problem because you outworked everybody else. That's faith over fear. That's community. If we are preaching that message and going to bat every day for Americans, for vets, for the elderly, for the people who are working their asses off and continue to fall behind, we keep going to bat for them and their kids and their extended families, America will notice. We didn't do that in 2024. We wagged our fingers at people. They told us to go fuck ourselves. We either learn from it or the country's lost.
I fucking love that. I'm stealing all of that. So just so you know, I hope you're okay with that. I'm stealing every bit of that.
We have Marshall coming in a couple of days too, and he's going to talk about, harking back to that old Americana and how that's all still living in all of our hearts. And it's not a radical idea that you could afford a house and a car, send your kids to college and go on vacation. That was like the middle class.
Yeah.
That was the idea. Mm-hmm. Look, again, Americans, they want leaders.
Yeah.
They don't want rulers. Okay? And they just want freedom, fairness, and future. 3 F's. Really simple. They want to be free to live their best lives. They want everyone to start at the same starting line, right? And they want to believe that the American ideals will carry us into the future. They want to believe in the next American century. Yeah. Go talk to some 24-year-old out there and see if he or she or they believes in that. They don't. They don't. They've never seen government work. They weren't there to see the Marshall Plan. They weren't there to see the highway system get built. They weren't there to see us put a man on the moon. They weren't there to see any of it. They're coming through a school system that is barely functioning, right? They see that we are a nation of haves and have-nots. They don't see that bridge getting crossed in any way. We have to make them believe in us as a country. We have to make them believe in democracy and in government. We have to make them believe in each other and in themselves. We have to get them to put the fucking phone down and stop doom scrolling and stop TikTok and, look to each other as safe harbors. Once again, that's the Democratic message. Working for working people, right? That's what we do. And we have completely blunted our own message and almost lost our country as a result of it. The good news is it's eminently fixable, incredibly fixable. We just have to start talking differently. We have to start messaging in the way that we actually intend to govern.
One of the things that I wanted to bring up, we were talking about, we got to get on the podcast. We got to do the thing. They got to do all the things. When Hillary Clinton ran. Now, first of all, let me just let it be known, I'm a fan of Howard Stern. I know, Tiff, we like the show. We're a big fan. We have been since the 90s when he came to Portland, whatever. It was, some people like him, some people don't. I get it. But he would rail on, like, he was a big Hillary Clinton supporter. And he's like, why doesn't she just come on the show? Like, I'm speaking to, millions of people every morning. It can't hurt, man, And
I didn't know Hillary. She was very walled off. She was very, which I understand is a way of selling yourself politically, but it didn't work for me as a American.
Yeah.
You didn't tell a story.
Yeah. And then now everything that's happened in this last election, I'm happy to say that, we had Senator Ron Wyden come in studio here. We're a brand new podcast. He was gracious enough to come in. We had a great time. It was a great interview. And I go, Christ, maybe they're listening. Maybe they've heard, he came on a show called The Dangerous Ones, for Christ's sakes. I was really like, okay, maybe we are waking up. I'm hoping that is true.
I would even say that when Hillary did go on Howard Stern, it was too late.
It was definitely too late.
And when she did it, I was like, fuck, I wish she would have done that when she was still running.
And same with Joe. And Joe had done it and whatnot. But so it sounds like the message might be getting out. It sounds like it might be a little too late. But you talk to more politicians on a daily basis, I'm sure, than even we do. Are they getting that message? Time to not be scared anymore, guys. I think the fucking gloves are off.
Oh, of course.
Oh, God, I hope so.
Yeah.
They all know it.
Oh, good.
And when you talk to them about redefining the party, I hate the term rebranding.
I know.
But rebranding to me is like taking the same soda and just putting it in a different colored can. That's not what we're doing. We're redefining what it means to be a Democrat.
Yeah.
And we are expanding that term. And everybody that I talk to, everyone in the Senate that I talk to, everybody in the House that I talk to knows we have to do it. They all know that we have to get the left to, if not come aboard, at least not be the reason that we don't get our message out. The left is a part of our party, but it is not the sum of our party, and it should not be the face of our party. And even AOC knows that. You can watch her behavior and watch her distance herself from some of the members of the far left of our party. I used to say that the difference between our lunatic fringe and the Republicans' lunatic fringe was that their lunatic fringe wanted to get rid of democracy and replace it with authoritarianism, and our lunatic fringe just wanted everyone to go to college for free. That's not true. Our lunatic fringe wants to tell America how to talk. America will not be told how to talk. America will never, ever, ever accept it. It is antithetical to the American character to be browbeaten in that way. And so what we need is to move to the big middle, where the votes have always been. We need to gain power and then govern in a way that is true to our principles. We do it better than Republicans do. We're way better at governing than Republicans are. Remember, we're the guys who, when the I-95 bridge collapsed and everybody said it would take a year to get it rebuilt, we did it in 16 days.
Yeah.
I started begging on that day, every Democrat in Congress, go have your picture taken on that bridge. every day.
Yeah.
Go show Americans what Democrats do when we actually have some power in government. Look how efficient we are. Look how good at this we are. Look how much we take care of what you need taken care of. But you can't get them to do it because when it comes to messaging, at that point, they were fucking up a peanut butter sandwich.
Yeah.
And I think they all know now that that will not work, that the game has been fundamentally changed. Say what you want about Donald Trump. He has changed the norms of politics, maybe in a permanent way, but certainly in a way that's going to take generations to undo. And we have now gotten the message, I'm pretty sure. I think you're going to see us talk in a different way in the next 2 years.
I literally could sit here. I'm not making this up. I could literally sit here for 2 hours listening to you talk about democratic messaging. That's what a nerd I am, I guess. I don't know.
Me too.
I
Me
hope,
too.
We are running against the time, but I wanted to part with this and see if maybe you had some words for our audience. What can folks in our audience who are listening to this show, watching this show, what is your advice to them being an everyday American? They're obviously listening to a political podcast right now.
I got to tell you, the voicemails, they're heartbreaking.
Yeah.
People are scared. People are losing their
Oh
benefits.
my God, yeah.
It's scary times.
What do you, as we kind of bring this to a close, what do you recommend to all of those folks who are listening right now? What can they do to be helpful over the next 2 years and 4 years?
Okay. First of all, I want to apologize to all of them because we as Democrats did not tell our message forcefully enough or clearly enough to make America vote for us and support us. And if we had, you wouldn't be facing the crisis that you're facing right now. So this is a failure on the part of my party, and we have to atone for it. We have to do better, and we will do better. This is not your fault. This is our fault. But here's what I think you need to do about it now. Let us, for the moment, get rid of this idea that sending a really mean tweet is political expression and is going to do anything. You need to go out in the streets. You need to tell the story of the house you're losing or the elderly parent who's not getting benefits anymore or the vet who can't afford the apartment anymore and is moving into a car. You need to shine a light on what your government is failing to do right now. And it is, again, it's not about Twitter. Twitter is seen by 7% of the country. That's just not enough. You need to actually be part of a collective that is out there and protesting. I guarantee you, it got attention when 100,000 people were standing outside the Tesla dealership in Chicago. Literally, it scared the White House so much that the next day, the president of the United States did a Tesla commercial from the fucking White House lawn.
Jesus Christ.
Yes, your voice matters. You matter. You matter to your family. You matter to your community. You matter to your country. You matter to our collective future. And you need to take that agency and go out and tell your story. Americans always respond to a truthful story, passionately told. That's how I've made my living since I was 24. Okay.
I thought it was 19. Didn't you sell an episode of the Jetsons?
I sold an episode of the Jetsons when I was 19, but I didn't make a living as a writer.
That's right.
Until I was 24.
That's right.
But the point is, go tell your story. Find other people who have similar stories. It's not going to be hard to find them. They're going to be everywhere.
Yeah.
And if we're not careful, they're going to be telling those stories from the gutter. Get together with people. Make your voice feel universal and loud. And the rest of the country will notice. And hang in there. Keep praying. And give Democrats a chance. We will go to bat for you.
Wow. Well,
Couldn't have said it better.
Wow. Fantastic. Billy, thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts for being on this show. I know that this show is better now because you have been a guest.
Oh, that's
I know.
Very kind of you. And it's such a privilege to talk about this stuff with you guys. And it's presumptuous as hell, but if you'd ever like me to come back, I'd love to.
I'd love to have you
We're
on.
forcing you back, yeah. And we're just honored to, if I can be presumptuous, to call you friend. Thank you so much. And
Friends in the best way.
Absolutely. And I look forward to fighting alongside of you over the next 2 and 4 years. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and have a great rest of your day.